man, what a rough way to end that game. I'm glad the Packers were competitive till the end, but man, they fall to 3-6 after losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers 23-19 with a very intense ending there, but they couldn't come away with it. There's a lot to dive into in this game. My instant thoughts and reactions for the Packers offense, defense, the team as a whole. Now a 3-6 football team heading into week 11 against the Chargers next week. So I'm going to give my instant thoughts and reactions, my post-game reactions to this week 10 loss against the Steelers. All right, so let's get things started. I'm going to start with the most obvious for me. The Packers defense couldn't stop a single run today. This Pittsburgh Steelers offense, which not a good offense going into this game. Like every Pittsburgh Steelers fan before this game would probably tell you that they want Matt Canada fired. Yet the Packers defense and Joe Barry just made them look like one of the best offenses in the league and one of the best running offenses in the league. When before this game, the Steelers averaged 90.5 yards per game, which was 25th best in the league. They had 205 against the Packers with a 5.7 average and 2 touchdowns. They more than doubled their per game average running the football. And Kenny Pickett really didn't have to do much in the passing game. Only 126 yards passing. He was 14 of 23, a 5.5 average, which is awful. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Only got sacked once, had a rating of 75.6. They didn't need to throw the ball too much because every single run, an average of 5.7, under that average, you run twice, you get a first down. And that was really the game for the Packers defense. The Steelers being able to run the ball over and over and over again, and the Packers not being able to stop it. Jaylen Warren, who a good back, I will say, I do give him credit. Jaylen Warren, 15 carries for 101 yards, a 6.7 average, and a touchdown. Najee Harris, 16 for 82, 5.1 average, and a touchdown. Najee Harris hasn't been good all year, and we just made him look good. Kenny Pickett, 4 for 16, a 4.0 average. Calvin Austin, 1 for 6, a 6 average. 36 carries the Steelers ran, 36 times, 205 yards, 5.7 average, 2 touchdowns. This Packers running defense couldn't stop anything. And when going into this game, you're looking at the defensive backs. You're going, okay, this is going to be our problem, right? No Jair Alexander. We got Corey Ballantyne and Carrington Valentine at corners. You got Rudy Ford coming back from injury, but you got Rudy Ford and John Owens at safety, and you're going, that's where the Steelers are going to attack. We got to be careful there, right? Corey Ballantyne had a good game. There wasn't too many times, he let up a reception, a couple here and there, but then he came back with a couple nice pass deflections. Carrington Valentine played okay, not like he did last week, but, got beat on a deep comeback or a deep back shoulder throw against Pickens. But nonetheless, this passing defense wasn't the reason why the Steelers scored 23 points and why this team lost. It was the run defense and the lack of being able to finish a play. Multiple times the Packers pressured Kenny Pickett, had him dead to rights, and somehow he escapes the pocket, and somehow he runs for a first down. It was a very invisible game by Rashawn Gary, which is very disappointing, knowing how poor the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is, how poor those tackles are. And yet Preston Smith was only one with a sack. I expected the Packers to have 4 to 5 sacks today, which they should have. But at the same time, you can't get sacks when the Steelers aren't passing that many times and they're simply just running the football because that's what they can do and that's what gets them first downs. It all starts with stopping the run, getting the Steelers into 3rd and long situations, and that's when maybe you create pressure and get a sack. But even when they were in those 3rd and long or 2nd and long and they ended up passing, the Packers couldn't finish on their pressure. And the Steelers, gained yards almost every single play. George Pickens only went 3 for 45. Connor Hayward, 3 for 32. Deontay Johnson, 1 for 17. No receiver on the Steelers had over 50 yards. So, again, it wasn't the pass defense. It was the rush defense. And at this point, man, it's just crazy that Joe Barry is still our defensive coordinator. I don't think there's a single Packers fan that would argue that they want Joe Barry as defensive coordinator. Not saying it's all his fault. Players still aren't executing. Yeah, sure, he might be putting them in the right spot and they're not executing. That definitely happens on both defense and offense. But at this point, I just think there needs to be a change. There's just too much talent on this defense to get, ran all over by a very mediocre offense and make them look like one of the best in the league. Clearly something is not working. And I think there's just got to be a change at this point. Pittsburgh drove down the field right away on their first drive, just looking like one of the best offenses in the NFL. And I made a joke before this game this week saying, we're going to make this Pittsburgh Steelers off. Joe Barry's going to make this Pittsburgh Steelers offense look great. He's going to make Kenny Pickett look like Terry Bradshaw, which really wasn't the case. They had to run. That's all they had to do is run. But nonetheless, they made this offense look a lot better than it actually was. Now, I do want to talk about the one fumble that wasn't called, the backward pass, Kenny Pickett to Warren that they ruled incomplete on the field. And then even after reviewing it, ruled it incomplete. That was 100% a backward pass. And if they didn't blow that ball dead, that would be a touchdown for Rashawn Gary. He picked up the ball, dove into the end zone. Like, that completely changes the game. So that part was annoying, but I'm not going to blame a loss on the refs. But, that was definitely a fumble. We all know it. Even Steelers fans know it. That was a backward pass. It should have at least been Packers football. And yes, we stopped them and they punted, but, we would have had the ball a lot closer there. Also, Kenny Clark has been super disappointing, not only in this game, but all season. I feel like this guy has disappeared from what we're used to seeing from Kenny Clark. Like, his rookie season, even, his second, third, fourth season were excellent, right? Like, he was one of our best defenders and a force to be reckoned with on that defensive line. And that's all but disappeared. Kenny Clark consistently not finishing plays or missing tackles. And I know he just came off an injury, a shoulder injury from last week, but that's not been the case the rest of the season when he's been playing poor as well. So, there's a lot of veterans on this team that have simply not stepped up, and a lot of rookies and younger players that have. And you would expect kind of the opposite. And that also goes for the offense, which we'll get into. A lot of rookies stepping up and a lot of veterans not. So moving on to the offense, we're obviously going to start with Jordan Love. I know the fan base is very split on Jordan Love. You either hate him or you love him. I thought he had a good game, personally. That last play, sure, not a good play, right? An interception threw it right to the defender, but the Steelers are in a dime look, 4-man rush, everyone else along the goal line. There's really not much to go off there. You would like to see him throw it a little higher to a receiver, maybe give them a contested catch situation, maybe force a pass interference. So yeah, that throw was definitely on Jordan Love, but every defensive back was up against the goal line, so it was kind of hard to go anywhere there. And I would have liked to see him target maybe Dobbs or Wicks or Reed or Musgrave and not target Christian Watson, which we'll dive down into here in a second, talking about Christian Watson, which, oh man, not a good season for Christian Watson. But Jordan Love finished 21 of 40. 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 71.8 rating. And looking at the box score, if you just looked at that and you'd go, oh, well, Jordan Love wasn't efficient, near a 50% completion percentage. But there were so many drops today, and this just continues to happen game in, game out. Not saying Jordan Love is perfect and every single throw has been perfect, but he made some really nice throws in this game. The deep post to Jaden Reed right on the money. There's other throws, we had Tay Wicks wide open on a deep dig route. Nice read there, nice throw. Late in that game, the Jaden Reed the deep ball that, was a little bit of a wobbler, but nonetheless, Jordan Love got out under pressure and got that ball out there and gave this offense a chance. The other interception in the end zone to Christian Watson, I don't know why we continue to target this guy on fade routes when he consistently can't make a contested catch, although he's a 6'5" wide receiver covered by 48-year-old Patrick Peterson and still can't make a play. Christian Watson has not really made, outside of last week in the one contested catch, has not made a play for Jordan Love once in this season. That's his only completed contested catch all year. I think he might be 1 for 11 now if we count this game. I'll have to see the exact stats on it. But Christian Watson has continued to not make plays for this offense, and it's disappointing. We're still waiting for a Christian Watson breakout game, and early on he had 2 catches. I'm like, oh, is this going to be it? Is this going to be it? And then he drops a ball right after that, and then the rest is history. He was targeted way too much today. I believe he was targeted 7 times. He had 2 catches for 23 yards. They're targeting him too much. He's targeted more than every other wide receiver, yet every other wide receiver had more yards than him. I got to give a shout out to these rookies. Jaden Reed, 5 for 84. Hell of a game by Jaden Reed and a touchdown. Luke Musgrave, 2 for 64. They finally used him in the middle of the field on that seam route and then that nice corner route against a linebacker. That's how you use Luke Musgrave. So nice game by him. Tay Wicks, nice game by him, 3 for 51. Romeo Dobbs, 3 for 31. He's been, not doing too much lately, but has been consistently making some plays in the game, and he's been our better contested catch guy this season. I think you replace Watson's targets and give them to Dobbs or Wicks or Reed at this point. Watson has to prove that he's that guy, that number 1 wide receiver that he clearly has not been. Wicks continues to get open and continues to make plays, and that's why He continues to get more snaps, as he should. Jayden Reed, like I said, an awesome day today. That awesome post route beating the Steelers defense, and just a great throw by Jordan Love as well there. As for the Packers running game, we kind of all expected another heavy workload for Aaron Jones this week, which he did end up with more carries than A.J. Dillon, but half the yards. A.J. Dillon had 9 carries for 70 yards, a 7.8 average, a long of 40. A.J. Dillon was the hot running back today, and the Packers should have stuck with him. And I know that goes against all of us, pregame saying, give Aaron Jones the football, keep feeding Aaron Jones. But if you're going to have a dual-headed backfield, you do have to run with the hot hand when that is present. And it was A.J. Dillon today. The dude was running hard. That 40-yard run was an awesome display of running ability by A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones ran 13 times for 35 yards, 2.7 average. Really rough game for Aaron Jones. Had also multiple drops. A drop from Jordan Love that probably would have been a first down. A drop from a throw from Tay Wicks that probably would have went for a big gain. I mean, he had a whole wall of blockers and just drops that ball. Rough game for Aaron Jones. Just a rough game overall by a lot of the veterans on this football team, whereas a lot of the young players and a lot of the rookies were the ones to step up. So that much is promising, like seeing all these rookies step up, especially on offense with Reed, Musgrave, Wicks being the top 3 wide receivers in yardage in this game. All those guys stepping up. That much is very promising and a positive to take out of this game. But of course, then the drawback, the negative is these veterans, and it's weird to call them veterans because, Dobbs and Watson are year 2 wide receivers, but they are the leaders of that wide receiver room, and they're just not playing like it. And then we have special teams, Anders Carlson getting a PAT blocked and Josiah DeGuara completely whiffing the block. Like, do you blame that on Josiah DeGuara, or do you blame it on Rich Basashia for having Josiah DeGuara as an edge protector on a field goal block? I think both can be true. Josiah DeGuara has been very disappointing in every aspect of football on this football team this year. He hasn't done good on offense, hasn't done good on special teams. I think losing Tyler Davis was bigger than we all thought it was going to be earlier on in the offseason and training camp when he tore his ACL. I mean, if you don't miss a PAT here in this game or don't get one blocked, you're down by 3 late in that game, and that completely changes it. The Packers likely kick the field goal after that big play, and then we go into overtime, and then who knows what happens. Change the whole aspect of the game, missing and getting that PAT blocked. And, special teams has been inconsistent. It's been very shaky. We have Keyshawn Nixon getting tackled at the 15 and then returning a kick to the Steelers 45. We have blocks being whiffed. Overall, it's not what we saw last year from Basashia's group. It just kind of has been a rough point and an inconsistent one at this point this season. But overall, although the Packers lost, at least it was a competitive game until the end. Like, win or loss, I want the Packers to be competitive. You play to win the game. I'm never going to root for a team to lose for a better draft pick. We're not Bears fans. We're not going to root for the Packers to tank, or at least I'm not. I'm definitely not going to root for the Packers to tank. You play to win the game. I'm going to root for them to win every single week. So at least they were competitive all the way through this football game. Like, it was pretty much a 1-score game most of the game. The Steelers were up by 10 at one point, but it was pretty much a 1-score game, and it came down to the last play with 3 seconds. And if it goes the other way and Packers score a touchdown there, we have a whole different outlook on this game. We go, oh, Jordan Love had an amazing game. The Packers offense stepped up. The defense did enough to win. We have a completely different aspect on one play if it changes the opposite way. But it didn't. The Steelers made the play at the end of the game, got the interception, ended this game. But overall, I was happy that the Packers stayed competitive all game. The Packers head back to Lambeau next week to play the right now 4-4 Los Angeles Chargers. They're playing the Lions right now and actually down by 7. They're not a great football team. I think the Packers could beat the Chargers. I was very confident they could actually beat the Steelers, and it was a close enough game. It's not like they got blown out or anything. They did definitely get beat on the ground, that's for sure, and in the trenches, but it was still a winnable game. It just didn't go their way in the end. Like I said, got the Chargers this upcoming week back in Green Bay. I'm confident the Packers can win that game, and then after that, short week, Thanksgiving Day against the Lions, who are in the lead for the NFC North right now and probably will take away the NFC North title. The Vikings are a little bit behind them, though, as they're definitely going to contest them late. But right now, the Packers are still 3rd in the division. But that about does it for this video. Those are my instant thoughts and reactions on this football game. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments. I'm sure it's going to be a very split comment section in terms of Jordan Love and this football team. But let me know down in the comments below. But that about does it for this one. I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.